Now, the fertile soil deposited had to be irrigated all year long until the next flood, and the irrigation was by hand, or what they still use it, by the way, and the Arabs call it a shaduf. It's a long pole. At the end of one pole you have a bucket. The other end of the pole you have a weight, either a lump of clay or something, and then you push the weight up and the bucket goes into the water, and you pull it down and it brings the bucket of water over, and you turn it, and then you water your fields, and you keep on doing that several hours a day to irrigate your crops, and you raise crops. And Egypt was very productive all through the ages, so much so that later on when the Romans conquered Egypt, they simply assigned Egypt the role of being the granary of the Roman Empire. That's where they raised their wheat and their oil and everything else in surplus in order to distribute it over the rest of the empire. They did what many empires do, that is, they made each colony or each province a branch of their economy and sort of restricted them to that. But the fertility of Egypt was very productive. Egypt, by the way, is called in Egyptian the two lands. And the pharaoh is called the king of the two lands, or the pharaoh of the two lands. Why? Because Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt are different from each other. Lower Egypt is the delta, and the capital of Lower Egypt was a city which is called in Greek Memphis. And Memphis was the capital of Lower Egypt. And Memphis is not far from modern Cairo. This is the Greek form of the name, which comes from the Egyptian form. Moph, or Momph, is the way it appears in the Bible, in Hebrew, because that was the Egyptian name. You know, the Greeks and the Romans, they usually added a suffix like s or os to names. So it's known as Memphis in Greek, and that's the capital of Lower Egypt, the head of the delta. In the south, about 400 miles south, was the other capital of Egypt, which was called No Ammon. And No Ammon means the place of the god Ammon, his holy place, which the Greeks, for some reason, called Thebes. So in Greek literature, No Ammon is called Thebes. There was a city in Greece also called Thebes for some reason. Both were capitals of kingdoms. Upper Egypt, south, the capital of No Ammon. Lower Egypt, the north, capital at Memphis. Sometime around 3000 BC, which is about the time shortly after the origin of writing in Sumer and the rise of Sumerian civilization. There had already been a rise of Egyptian civilization, but around 3000 BC, a pharaoh, that is a king of Egypt, conquered and united the two lands and became in effect the pharaoh of the two lands. And from then on, it is called that. That is, Egypt is called the two lands. And that's why in Hebrew, the name of Egypt is Mitzrayim, which is a dual. You know, in Hebrew, there's a singular, there's a plural, there's a dual. Dual means two. So it's called Mitzrayim in Hebrew, and it's called the kingdom of the two lands. And the pharaoh traditionally, by the way, wore two crowns. The white crown of Upper Egypt, the red crown of Lower Egypt. And the crowns were one inside the other. This is all part of their tradition.